Remember how you loved the stories at bedtime about princesses and fairy godmothers? Well, you may want to hold on tighter to your teddy bear and keep that nightlight on, because these are not your mother's bedtime stories. Hello, and welcome to another podcast of Not Your Mother's Bedtime Story. I'm Karen, and I'm the mother, and I'm here with my three daughters. I'll let you introduce yourselves.
Hi, Colleen is here.
Hi, this is Chrissy.
Hey, y'all, it's Cheri.
And we have a special guest, Sandy is joining us, and she has some experiences in a house that she lived in that could be paranormal, I would say.
So I have to say, before we start, our mood is definitely much happier because we just saw a Packer victory after they've defeated the very pretentious rival, the Bears.
Over the Bears in Soldier Field. So how's Dave doing? He's fine. He's looking forward to better draft picks. So, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of feeling that way too. I was like, man, maybe we don't want to win anymore.
That's exactly what he said. He's like, I can't root for the Packers, but I kind of want them to win because now they get better draft picks.
They get a better draft pick.
Mm-hmm.
So we definitely have to do that. And you guys didn't make it all the way up to Green Bay to the R&D House Divided this time and try the double bubble, which I figured out. So a double bubble is actually a 2-for-1. That's a double bubble.
Oh, it's like a BOGO?
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. I know. Must be like a regional thing. If we have any listeners from Green Bay or Wisconsin in general, which I feel really bad after living in Wisconsin for all those years and not knowing what a double bubble is.
That was new to me, but I did learn something. I learned a couple of things yesterday. So y'all know I live in Alabama. We went up to Tennessee and went to the Jack Daniels tour. We did the Angel Share tour, and if she's ever listening to this, her name was Kim. She was amazing. Our guide was Kim. She was amazing. And we did the tour. It was really cool to learn about. So if you are ever in Lynchburg, I would recommend the Jack Daniels tour 100%. My favorite, and of course, because apparently I have expensive taste, was the Sinatra Select Jack Daniels, which apparently is $150 a bottle. But I liked it. That was my favorite. It was my favorite taste. But yes, apparently Frank Sinatra loved Jack Daniels. He called it out, put Jack Daniels a little bit on the map, but great tour. But just being up in Tennessee, apparently I am blending. Nobody took me for a Yankee. They took my husband for a Yankee and called him out. I was wearing cowboy boots, and so maybe I blended a little bit more, but actually called him out on his Yankee accent and said that, but I was like, oh, I'm not. And so apparently I'm fitting in. I'm fitting in here in the South and, loving every second of it. But it was a great time. And like I said, if anybody's ever in that area, I would definitely recommend the Jack Daniels tour. It was great. Well, you did live in St. Louis for a little bit, so you did get you were a little south in your lifetime. It's a little different south, but one of those things. And Mom, I don't know if because I know you went on the tour, but I don't know if they ever told you if you go into the fermenting room and they tell you to take a whiff out of the fermenting vats, that. Whew, I mean that like goes up into your eyeballs and you feel it. Right. It was I never experienced anything like that. I was like, I think today I'm still tasting what I inhaled in that fermenting room. It was
breathe through your mouth.
A little heads up. I said Kim would have been nice for that one, but that was it was a bit extreme.
Sounds like me when I cleaned out my fridge yesterday. I'm still inhaling that old bean dip from July, I think.
Greg didn't eat that?
I know. It kind of got hidden underneath all the other stuff. But, I'm still smelling that bean dip. That's true.
For the after
it looked like bean dip. Anyway. All right, Sandy, we will let you take it away and get into some of the spooks.
Okay. Well, we moved into a 100-year-old house probably about 25 years ago. And my daughter was about 12 at that time. And we had heard when we bought the house from a neighbor at the old neighborhood. And she said when she grew up, she knew the people that lived in that house and that they had talked about this figure of a woman ghost that would go up and down the stairs. And it was a 3-story house. It was very cool. It was all redone, old Victorian house. But we didn't think too much about it. And so the first experience that I had, my husband was in the National Guard and he was gone to Japan for about 2 weeks. My daughter was spending the night with someone. I was in our bedroom was in the 2nd story. I was in the bedroom and I was laying down, kind of taking a nap, but I wasn't sleeping. And I was just laying there, and it was daylight. And all of a sudden, I looked up at the kind of the corner of the closet, the right side of the between the ceiling and the closet, and there was this multicolored, pulsating, spherical light. It was probably about maybe 8 inches, like in circumference. And I can still see the colors were bright neon, pink, blue, yellow, green. And I looked at it. Everything else in the room was completely normal. And it scared me so bad. And I thought, am I really seeing this? And then I thought, am I going to be abducted? And nobody's going to know where I went. I mean, I had no idea what to think. And when I get scared, I pretend like I'm asleep. So I thought, what am I going to do? I'm going to shut my eyes and pretend like I'm asleep because I don't want to see what might go on. And I could have had my eyes shut for 5 minutes. It could have been 45 minutes. I didn't know. I was so afraid. And then I thought, I'm going to have to open my eyes. I'm going to have to see if it's still there, what's going to happen. Open my eyes. It was gone. Never saw it again. But it scared me really bad. So that was the first thing that happened. And then my daughter and I both had the same experience several times. And we'd be it would be at night and we'd be in bed, and her bedroom's on the 3rd floor. And so I think I told her about it before she told me about it. And I would be laying on my side on the bed, and right in front of my face, like at the edge of the bed would sink down, I don't know, maybe 3 inches. And I look and think, is our cat in here? And, and I thought, what is happening? And it happened to me several times. And my daughter said, by that time we had named this figure Claudine, because for lots of reasons, we felt like she was it was a female figure that was very kind and benevolent to us. It didn't try to scare us or anything. And so she said it would sit at the foot of her bed, and it would sink down. And she was way braver than me. She would sit up really quick and go and try to see it, and it would go away every time. So she didn't ever, of course, see anything or hear anything, but she felt this person sitting at the foot of her bed. One day, again, I was in my bedroom and I was there by myself, and I was lying on my stomach, kind of trying to take a nap. And we had this huge cat, and I always shut the door if I was trying to take a nap or going to bed at night, because the cat was very cuddly and loved it, get in bed or whatever, get wherever you were, there was the cat. So the door was shut and I was laying on my stomach, and all of a sudden it was like this huge weight was on my legs. And I thought, oh my gosh, did the cat get in here? I know he's not, but he's got to be. So I, of course, turned around, looked, nothing. There was nothing there, but this weight had been on my legs. And, again, it was like something sitting either near me or on me. Anyway, those were the first few experiences that I had, and my daughter had, and then my husband had. He had he and I both experienced the same thing at one time. We'd gone to bed, and it was very hot on our second floor. We didn't have air conditioning, and we had windows on either side of our bed that kind of cranked out. And I said, "Oh, I'm so hot. Would you open the window?" And he goes, "Oh, go ahead. You open the window. I'm so tired." And I go, "I'm so tired too." We both went to sleep, woke up in the morning, and I said, "Oh, honey, thank you so much for opening the window. I slept so good with that window open." And he goes, "I didn't open the window." And I said, "You
Oh
had
my
to." I said, "I didn't
gosh.
open the window." And we both swore neither of us opened the window. So that's why we kind of felt like sometimes things that would happen would be like to be helpful to us.
Do have a question. So
Yes.
when you moved into the house, and had started to have these experiences, did you do any research on it? Like, were there any deaths in the house or anything like that?
We talked with our friend who from our old neighborhood who had said that she grew up with the girl as a friend who lived in that house as a child, and she said that they, like I said, they had seen the figure of the ghost kind of going up and down the stairs. So we actually asked the realtor about it, when we were moving in. And of course, realtors don't want to touch anything like that, and the realtor said, "Oh, no, there's nothing that, that we've never heard anything," there's a lot of different opinions from realtors about whether they're, legally obligated to disclose that kind of thing, or whether they're legally obligated not to disclose it. So we didn't have any verification that way, of course, but I think that was about the only thing. But we also did have a friend that I worked with in child welfare, and she was very interested in the occult and in all these, really into it. And she said, I can sense where there's a spirit. I can sense in a house, So she came over and she went through the entire house, and it was huge. It was 4,000 square feet house. It was 3 stories, and she went through the entire place. And when she got to our bedroom closet, she said, "I feel a very strong presence right here." And in one of the other bedroom closets on that same floor, she said, "I feel a very strong presence." But mostly it was in our master bedroom closet where I'd seen that spherical thing. We kind of were like, gave that like grain of salt, but it was a little bit of information that we could, do with what we wanted.
Mm-hmm.
I always find it interesting when people name their ghosts, because it's usually like a Bill or a Bob or a Charlie. So like Claudine is not like your common run of the mill name. So it is interesting that she almost gave you like a sense, or a feeling like this is me, this is who I am. So I love the ghost names, and I don't know how, I can't ask them how they feel, but I feel like a ghost, especially a benevolent ghost, probably doesn't mind a name. But then sometimes they get mad if you get the name wrong too. And so maybe you guys, for some reason, had a sense.
Well, and that's what I'd be interested to learn, if a Claudine ever did live at that residence.
Right.
And
yeah, that we never did the research on that to find out anything like that. My daughter just got that name out of the blue, kind of thinking that might be like more of a turn of the century name. Not sure.
Yeah, but it's not very common. It's not like a Mary or Elizabeth or something that would have also been super common. So yeah, I feel like if your daughter had any sort of sense, she might have picked up on the Claudine. And you never did like a Ouija board or any sort of seance or anything where no. Okay. Good for you. Good.
Good idea.
we were always, even though we never felt like we were going to be harmed. It scared me so bad whenever I would have any experience with it. It didn't scare my daughter. It didn't scare my husband, but it scared me terribly. But I didn't feel threatened.
So you had mentioned the house was restored or remodeled. Do you happen to know that master bedroom area would that have been like an original master bedroom, or was this so old where they might have had like servants' quarters?
It was definitely the original master bedroom. It had an attached, beautiful big bathroom, and and then there were 2 other bedrooms on that floor and an extra bathroom outside of those rooms. So it definitely was the master bedroom. But one other experience that I had too when I was there by myself, this sounds so crazy, but I first heard, like, in the kitchen, male voices coming out of the coffee pot, and not when there was coffee in it, but it sounded like two men were like having maybe a conversation, very unintelligible, but I could tell that they were speaking very calmly and happily to each other. And I could hear it through the coffee pot. I couldn't understand what they were saying. And then, and I told, I remember, well, of course I told everybody about it. And I don't remember that anybody else ever heard that but me. But one night again, and this was in the evening, and I was there overnight by myself. And so it was early. It was probably about 6 p.m., pouring down rain, really dark. And I don't know why I was in the bedroom. I don't know if I was trying to go to sleep really early or not, but I know it was dark outside. And I could hear these two men talking again, and I could hear them speaking to each other. And again, it reminded me of like a radio program where they're just very calmly and kind of happily speaking back and forth with each other. And I thought, did I leave a radio on downstairs? Did I leave a TV on downstairs? I went downstairs. I checked, nothing on. I opened my door outside. We had a little veranda outside the second floor. I opened the door, looked out there, pouring down rain. Nothing of course, no one, nobody that would ever be heard, because we had a huge yard, and, neighbors were far enough away that you couldn't, even if they were in their yard talking, you wouldn't be able to hear them. So I just was like, what in the heck is this? But I heard probably maybe 3 or 4 or 5 times I heard these same conversations going on between these two men.
Huh. But totally unintelligible, just a muffled conversation.
Yes, I could not make out any.
Boy, this coffee's awful.
Yeah. From the coffee pot. It was the weirdest thing. I thought
it was the Hills Brothers. Oh,
that's not the best part of waking up.
Right. Maybe they were upset it was empty. It's like, hey,
oh,
let's get this pot full. Come on.
Yeah. And then another, and my daughter, of course, being 12, she and all her friends loved coming over there because they were kind of scared, but they thought, they're like, Chelsea, can you call your ghost? Can we meet your ghost? And she's like, well, it doesn't work that way. But she would hear Claudine, who she named her, crying at the bottom of her stairs. But the bottom of her stairs was right outside our bedroom door. And we did not hear it, but she could hear this woman. She said she was like wailing, like crying, like kind of like just, distraught. And she heard that many times.
That's so sad.
Yeah.
Really sad.
Very sad. Like, I have no explanation for any of it, because I don't know what it means. I think that and people are either sensitive to it or not, or, and I can't say that I believed any more or any less than anyone. I just know what happened to me, what I experienced.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, I think there are people who are more sensitive to it, but then, we hear so many stories of people who say, like, I never believed in ghosts until, I lived where I lived, or until it happened to me. And so I think there is some part of it, like your daughter might be more sensitive to actually hear the crying. But yet, if something is strong enough and wants to display, you don't have to be as sensitive.
True. Yeah.
And there could also be a connection. So if, depending on what happened to this woman during her life, if she made some kind of connection to your daughter, or, to yourselves as well, you experienced her, but it seems like your daughter had a bit of a more, there could be something that she just was more open to, or maybe the ghost was trying to reach out to her a bit more, depending on what happened to her in her life. That's why I would be so curious to see, what's the history of the people that live there, or even in the surrounding areas, maybe on the property itself. I don't know how large the property was, but this could have been anywhere. I mean, you said it was a 100-year-old house when you moved
Mhm.
into it. So who knows what happened even before it, but I'm guessing there was something, maybe a woman, maybe a young woman, not sure how old she would have been. She could have connected to your daughter in some way, shape, or form that made her feel that that was the person that she wanted to open up to or be received by. So
Yeah, that's interesting. I never thought of it that way, but that makes sense. The woman that owned the house, she had two daughters who were like in high school, and she was the one that really refurbished and made this home absolutely gorgeous. And she was worked in a day or owned a daycare center, but she was completely hands off. She did not want to, we kind of tried to go through the realtor to say, oh, we've heard, that there was a woman ghost, and to us that was not off-putting. I mean, we just kind of wanted to know if she'd had any experiences there, and I think she got pretty afraid that maybe that was going to jinx the sale, or that that was nobody's was going to want to buy it if she talked about it. I don't know, but at one point, one of my friends from work, we had talked about it so much, and I said, I would love to talk to her about this and see if they experienced any of these same things. And so we went over to her daycare and kind of ambushed her. And I was so friendly and so open and like encouraging. I said, we love it. We love it. But we're just, really interested if you had any of these experiences. And she said, I don't have time. I don't have time. And she was horrified that I would try to contact her. And she ended up leaving the area. And it's like we were never able to talk to her or her daughters. And so I have no idea what she might have experienced or even how long they had lived there. And the realtor was not very helpful either, because I think they worry that this is going to jinx it if people find out, or it's going to come back on them somehow. They're going to be, in trouble. Or so that was my big link. That was our big link to find out, a little bit about at least the current or the most recent history.
And that seems very unusual that she would be so resistant. It almost makes me feel like something had happened, and that
something that really scared her.
Right, that there were occurrences and she didn't want to discuss it, and I don't know where you were at what point in the sale or anything like that, but it seems a little odd. It's okay, we're buying regardless. Just let me know. But for her to leave the area, that seems a bit extreme. I wonder if maybe her experiences weren't as benevolent. Maybe she had different experiences altogether, and it could have been a different type of situation. And, like Chrissy said at the beginning, renovations can stir up things. Maybe there potentially was some hostility with the renovations going on. Maybe their experiences were a little bit more alarming and frightening, that it caused them to have those concerns. But that's very, very interesting that she would have that type of reaction.
Yeah, it really was. It was, I scared her somehow. She was like almost like thinking I was attacking her in some way, and I didn't approach it that way at all. Yeah, I don't know whatever happened with that. My brother had an experience there. He was staying with us at one point, and our downstairs family room had a closet in it. So at one point it might have been a bedroom. So he was sleeping in that room, and he was so afraid the next morning. And he told us that in the middle of the night, and my husband kept some of his clothes and shoes in that closet down there. And he said, my brother said in the middle of the night, the shoes all started like tapping and like pounding on the ground.
Oh my God.
And it scared him so.
Oh man, I would be so out of there. Especially if you were a guest. You're like, nope.
No.
It scared him so bad. And even though we had our own experiences,
Come on.
we said, well, now we do have a situation where we had a dog door or for our cat actually, and the cat would go in and out of it through the kitchen, around through the hall into the laundry room, which kind of was adjacent to this downstairs family room where he was sleeping. And I said, raccoons also come in there and they go straight through the hall and get into the cat's water and food. And then they just come right back out and go out the door. And I said, and the raccoons can make a lot of racket in the dry food. He's like, no, it was not that. I mean, he was adamant that the shoes were all tapping, and it went on for a long time, and it scared him so bad.
I wish it was.
But we never heard anything like that ourselves.
I love that the shoes are tapping on him. I love that. That's amazing.
We got Fred Astaire.
I don't know if that's scarier, finding like a trash panda eating the cat food in the morning too. That'd be a little scary too.
Well, I don't know why we were scared of the raccoons, but we were not going to box our poor cat inside. But at one point, the raccoon rushed, in on his route back outside, rushed right past my husband's legs, and it's like, we weren't that afraid of the raccoons. I don't know why. We should have been, but we weren't. He didn't hang out or anything.
They must have been friends with your cat. He's like, hey, come on over. I got something for you to eat here.
I think the poor cat was probably horrified about it, but never got in a fight or anything.
Plus, you got a talking coffee pot on the boot.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, talking coffee pot, tapping shoes, like these are so unique. I mean, this is not just your typical light switches going on and off or anything. These are definitely things I've never
I just wonder with the coffee pot if it was some kind of pun intended, but a filter. A filter like. I threw it on there. I need to percolate on this for a little bit longer, Sandy. I don't know.
Oh man,
that's funny.
Happy grounds for dismissal.
So again, the things with this particular spirit or this ghost, it didn't seem like it wanted to harm anybody. But for you said your husband and your daughter never felt any. But it scared you. So it didn't really
it scared
them,
me.
But it scared you. And again, kind of taking it back, what are the reasons, what are the causes? And your brother with the tap dancing shoes, I just wonder that if it's, some kind of connection, like it's just making you feel differently about it. And I still feel like there was a connection with your daughter, and maybe that was something, that there was a reason why she wasn't scared, that she felt it. She obviously felt the presence, but wasn't scared by it, didn't feel, but it scared you. So I'm wondering if maybe it was a younger type of spirit, maybe somebody that connected with her a little bit more. I've heard about that too with ghosts and spirits, where they're attracted, using that word, attracted to certain people. And they feel that, they'll come and, sit on the end of the bed, they'll make that connection with that person, but there's other people obviously there, and sounds like you were there most often. So maybe it was like, okay, I'm going to tolerate you because you're here all the time, but I'm not going to make you comfortable, or I'm not going to try to make you comfortable. It's just, I'm going to be here, and if you're scared, that's fine. But it's not trying to connect with you at all. More interesting. Sounds like it was trying to do that with your daughter more so.
Yeah, I've never heard anybody interpret it in any way, really, or explain it, and I haven't really heard other people's stories, so I don't even have anything to compare it to or explain it by, or so I would love to hear you guys' stories, or people that you've of course know about at some point, because I only really know my own.
We've got 7 other episodes for you to listen to.
Quite frankly, I think we go right back to our last episode, because we had a situation with our family, with our sister and her husband and their kids, and the ghost of their house obviously had a connection with our uncle, and she favored him. He heard her a few times where she would compliment him or things that he had done, but she also had the ability to make other people feel uncomfortable. So while she was nice and maybe protective in certain ways, she also made others in the house that lived in the house a bit uncomfortable at times. So it's very similar. I think that that's a possibility. So there was just something that the ghost connected with and went from there. And not to say that they were ever going to harm anybody in a very similar situation, but the feeling of being uncomfortable, or the feeling of being watched, or the feeling of being not wanted or watched over, that type of feeling, which is very, very common. I mean, we just had that on our last episode as well.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that's true, Cheri. And like the whole idea that your brother was a guest and unknown to the spirit too. I mean, the spirit is like, I'm going to make this person uncomfortable because they're making me uncomfortable. I don't know them too.
One thing that struck me was the story that you talked about with your daughter, hearing her wailing, and this was repeated. And that's another thing that we've heard with stories, is especially if there was like a tragedy that happened at that location, is that there's this residual energy that something tragic gets played out over and over and over again. So it would be really interesting to know, was there some tragedy that struck this young woman that she's repeatedly wailing, and then that if your daughter had that connection, that she could hear that residual energy is recurring.
Yeah, that's it. It's really interesting to hear it being sort of interpreted or explained somehow, or that there's kind of like a common understanding or knowledge about the experience, because I've never actually talked with anybody about, or that had that kind of, your kind of expertise or knowledge, or
we're not experts. Well, we're just fans.
Not even a little bit.
No, just consumers of the genre for sure.
Well, so. You're knowledgeable anyway about people's stories and about your own, and so it's very, very interesting for me. So thank you very much for allowing me to share and for giving me some more insight about it.
But this continued really basically until you moved out?
Yes. I think it probably lessened we were there 7 years, and it probably got a little bit less the longer we were there. Most of the things happened in the beginning, but at least for probably 3 or 4 years, things would happen.
And so when you moved out, did you tell the new owners about your experiences?
I don't think we did. They found a woman who was moving from an old house in Sacramento in the city, wanted an old house in the country, kind of. And I think they did not want me to really meet with her. I think, again, it's like realtors, they're afraid that it's going to ruin the sale. So they did not want me talking with her. And I remember at one point going over to the house and trying to meet with her and asking for mail, or, just said, I know sometimes mail doesn't always get forwarded. Do you happen to have anything? Just to get a sense of how she was doing and not try to bring it up. And she, again, was like very off-putting, did not want any contact, and was like, no, there's no mail, and was very kind of really odd. And so I don't know if it was the house again. I don't know. I don't understand that, where if someone's lived in your home and they come to your door and they say, oh, I lived here, or whatever, usually it's fun to kind of, like, oh, we love this about it, or, what did you do in this room, or, whatever it is. But that, again, was like, boy, she did not want me on the property. She did not want any contact, and really odd.
So bizarre.
It's very bizarre. And then at one point after that, the house completely turned into a overgrown, it looked like a total ghost house. I mean, it at this point, it's almost ruined. And it was it was just heartbreaking. The next people that bought it, roses. And so it was like really, I don't know, crazy people that lived there. And it was so filthy, dirty, gross, and untended that it really broke my heart. So I have no way to know of, any continuing experiences that people have had in that house or previous, so, which is sad. So,
Yeah.
Well, that's unfortunate. I mean, you almost kind of wonder if something, if the, the spirits or the energies that are there were quite angry. It's like, you're not taking care of anything. You never know. I mean,
Yeah,
just seems very odd, that's so sad that they would let that happen. And
yeah, I,
Right.
Good. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Sandy, for joining us.
oh,
So,
thank you guys.
A huge thank you to Sandy for sharing her story today. For now, take it away, Mom.
Thank you for listening, and remember to keep that night light on. Good night, sweet dreams.
If you have a story to share, please send it to notyourmothersbedtimestory@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Not Your Mother's Bedtime Story. And please help us grow by following us on your favorite podcast platform, leaving us a positive review, and telling a friend. Thank you for your support.